Two peptides, same family, completely different results, depending on who is using them. And most people pick the wrong one. Sermorelin and Tesamorelin are both GHRH analog. They both raises your growth hormone. They both increases IGF-1. On paper, they look almost identical. But clinically, in how they actually perform in the body, they are not the same tool. And if you choose the wrong one for your specific situation, you will spend months and real money wondering why isn't it working. I'm Jay Patel, a longevity PA, and in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly what makes them different, which one wins for fat loss and why, who should be on Sermorelin, who should be on Tesamorelin, and how we decide. Evidence-based, no fluff. By the end of this video, you will know which one is actually right for you. Let's start with what these two peptides actually are, because understanding the structural difference is what explains everything else. Both Sermorelin and Tesamorelin are synthetic version of growth hormone releasing hormone, GHRH. That means neither one is growth hormone itself. They both work by sending a signal to your pituitary gland to produce your own growth hormone naturally. That's the shared mechanism. Your body stays in control of the output. You are not injecting a hormone from outside. You are stimulating your own system to work better. But here is where they diverge. Sermorelin is a 29 amino acid fragment. It replicates the first 29 amino acid of your natural GHRH. It's been around since the 1990s. It has a long clinical track record and it stimulates a broad natural pattern release of growth hormone that benefits sleep, recovery, body composition, skin, cognition, the full spectrum of what growth hormone does. Tesamorelin is a 44 amino acid GHRH analog, the full length sequence, stabilized with trans 2-hexanoic acid modification that makes it significantly more resistant to break down in the body. That modification is not cosmetic. It means Tesamorelin produces a stronger, more sustained growth hormone pulses. It has a more powerful clinical effect on a specific target, and that target is a visceral fat. It's FDA approved under the brand name Aglifta, specifically for visceral fat reduction in HIV-associated lipodystrophy. That approval required controlled human trials showing it works. That distinction matters enormously in the space where most peptide has zero human trial data. So the short version, Sermorelin is a broad-spectrum optimizer. Tesamorelin is the visceral fat specialist. Same family, different tool, different application. Before we go further into which peptide wins for fat loss, I need to make sure we are talking about the same type of fat, because this distinction completely changes which tool is right for you. There are two primary types of body fat. Subcutaneous fat is the fat that sits just underneath your skin, the kind you can pinch. It's what you see when you look in the mirror. It responds to calorie deficit, exercise, and general metabolic improvement over time. It's frustrating, but it's not the dangerous kind. Visceral fat is different. It sits deep inside your abdominal cavity, surrounding your organs, liver, pancreas, intestine. You can't see it from the outside. Someone can look relatively lean and carry significant visceral fat. And visceral fat is metabolically active in a way that subcu fat is not. It releases inflammatory cytokines, disrupts insulin signaling, contributes to cardiovascular risk, and drives metabolic dysfunction in ways that subcu fat simply doesn't. The classic presentation I see clinically is the person who has hard, rounded midsection, not soft and pinchable, but firm and protruding. They may not be dramatically overweight overall, but that specific pattern, particularly in men in their 40s and 50s and in postmenopausal women, is often visceral fat. And it is not notably resistant to conventional diet and exercise in a way that makes a lot of people feel like they are doing everything right and getting nowhere. This matters for Sermorelin versus Tesamorelin question, because Tesamorelin's documented clinical strength is specifically visceral fat reduction. Not general fat loss, visceral fat reduction. If visceral fat is your primary challenge, that specificity is what makes it the more powerful choice. Let me give you the actual evidence, because in the peptide space, the real human trial data is rare and it matters. Tesamorelin has been through randomized placebo-controlled phase 3 human trial. The published data saw visceral fat reduction of 15 to 18% over 26 weeks compared to placebo. This is a clinically significant reduction in visceral adipose tissue. Not a rounding error, not a trend, a real and measured result. IGF-1 levels increased significantly. Trunk fat decreased. And critically, unlike many weight loss interventions, the effects were sustained and continued to compound with ongoing treatment in patients who remain on protocol. There is also meaningful data on Tesamorelin's effect on triglycerides. In the trials, patients saw statistically significant reduction in triglyceride level alongside the visceral fat reduction, which matters because visceral fat and elevated triglyceride are tightly linked and both are independent cardiovascular risk factor. For Sermorelin, the clinical picture is different. There is a long safety and efficacy track record. It's been used in clinical practice for decades, and the data supports its effect on growth hormone stimulation, IGF increase, improved sleep architect, and general body composition benefits over time. But Sermorelin's fat loss data is not as targeted or as dramatic as Tesamorellin's visceral fat data. Sermorelin improves the overall hormonal environment that supports fat loss. Tesamorelin goes directly after the specific fat depot that's hardest to move. For someone whose primary goal is broad optimization, better sleep, better recovery, gradual body composition improvement, anti-aging support, Sermorelin's evidence-based is solid and well established. For someone with significant visceral fat as the primary target, Tesamorelin's trial data makes it clinically stronger choice. Let me be clear. Recommending Tesamorelin for visceral fat doesn't mean Sermorelin is the lesser peptide. It means they serve different profile, and Sermorelin's profile is genuinely powerful for the right person. Sermorelin is the right choice when the goal is broad, systemic optimization rather than one specific target. The person who does best on Sermorelin is typically in the 35 to 60 range, noticing the gradual accumulation of symptoms that comes with growth hormone decline, sleep that's become lighter and less restorative, recovery from training takes noticeably longer, energy that's lower than it used to be without a clear explanation, brain fog, reduced libido, and some body composition changes, but not necessarily a dominant visceral fat pattern. This person has a functional lifestyle foundation. They are exercising regularly, consistently. They are exercising reasonably consistently, eating with some intention, and they want to optimize the hormonal environment that supports how their body performs and recover. They are playing the long game. They want to feel better, age better, recover faster, sleep deeper, and have their body respond to their efforts again the way it used to be. Sermorelin delivers that. Over a 3 to 6 month protocol, the changes that accumulate are real. Improved sleep architect, better recovery, gradual body composition improvement, improved skin quality through enhanced collagen synthesis, and for many people, a meaningful cognitive lift. These are IGF-1 driven changes across multiple systems simultaneously. It's a rising tide that lifts everything. The timeline expectation matters here too. Sermorelin is not a 6-week transformation. It's 6-month recalibration. And I talked about this in my other video where I talked about the timeline on starting Sermorelin. The people who understand that going in are the ones who stick with it long enough to see the full picture. And those are the patients who consistently report the most meaningful outcome. Tesamorelin is for a more specific clinical picture. And when that picture matches, the results are hard to replicate with anything else. The primary candidate for Tesamorelin is someone with a significant visceral fat accumulation as their dominant concern. Clinically, this often present as that firm, rounded abdominal protrusion, not soft sub-Q fat, but a hard, full midsection that has been resistant to diet and exercise efforts. It shows up commonly in men in their 40s and 50s experiencing metabolic slowdown, in women postmenopausal as fat distribution shift towards the abdomen, in people with insulin resistant or metabolic syndrome, and in anyone who has had significant hormonal disruption over time. The metabolic profile that typically accompanies this visceral fat pattern, elevated fasting triglyceride, impaired insulin sensitivity, some degree of fatty liver is also where Tesamorelin shows the most consistent clinical benefits. It's not just removing the fat, it's addressing the metabolic dysfunction that comes with it, because Tesamorelin produces a stronger, more sustainable growth hormone pulses than Sermorelin. Due to that molecular modification that makes it more stable, it generates a more potent signal through the fat metabolism pathway. For visceral fat specifically, which is more metabolically active and has a different receptor density profile than sub-Q fat, that stronger signal makes a measurable difference. In our practice, when a patient comes in with a clear visceral fat pattern, a history of that fat not responding to conventional approaches, and lab markers suggesting metabolic dysfunction underneath, Tesamorelin is typically where we start the conversation. The evidence supports it. The clinical outcome supports it. Here is a question I get asked regularly. Can you use both? And the answer is yes, but only with a clear reason for each one and structured approach how they are sequenced. The scenario where combining them makes clinical sense is the patient who has significant visceral fat as a primary target, so Tesamorelin is doing the heavy lifting on that specific fat depot, but who also has a broader symptom profile of growth hormone decline, poor sleep quality, slow recovery, cognitive fog, reduced energy. In that situation, Tesamorelin alone addresses the visceral fat but doesn't fully cover the systemic optimization piece. Adding Sermorelin, typically at the lower dose than you would run it as a standalone protocol, fills in those gaps. When you end up with is Tesamorelin driving the visceral fat reduction through its stronger, more targeted growth hormone pulses, and Sermorelin supporting a sleep architect, recovery, and a broader IGF-1 driven benefit that improves overall quality of life and function. This is not a stack for everyone. It requires a provider who understands how to dose both, how to monitor IGF-1 to make sure levels are in a therapeutic range without going supraphysiological, and how to adjust as your body responds over time. Running two GHRH analogs simultaneously without proper oversight is not a protocol. It's guessing. With oversight properly sequenced and monitored, it can produce outcome that neither peptide achieves as well independently. In MyFitMed, this is one of the more nuanced conversations we have, and is exactly the kind of decision that should be made based on your specific labs, your specific symptom profile, and a real clinical evaluation, not a forum post. Let's talk about the side effects honestly, because both peptide carries a profile you should understand going in. For Sermorelin, most commonly reported side effects are injection site reaction, mild redness or irritation that's usually transient, and some early fluid retention as IGF-1 level begins rising, which typically resolves within the first few weeks as the body adjusts. Some patients notice a flushing sensation shortly after injection, at higher doses or within faster titration. Some patients experience mild joint discomfort related to water retention. These are generally manageable with conservative dosing and appropriate titration. Tesamorelin's side effect profile includes similar injection site reaction and some fluid retention. Additionally, because it produces a stronger growth hormone pulses, there is more meaningful glucose metabolism consideration. Growth hormone is inherently counter-regulatory to insulin. It can transiently raise blood sugar. For most healthy patients, this is not clinically significant. But for patients with prediabetes, insulin resistant, or type 2 diabetes, this warrants real monitoring. Fasting glucose and HbA1c should be part of the baseline workup and should be tracked during treatment. For both peptides, the signal most important lab to monitor is IGF-1. This is the downstream marker that tells you whether the growth hormone stimulation is actually translating into meaningful clinical effects, and whether you are in a therapeutic range or pausing above it. In MyFitMed, we check this before starting, at 8 to 12 weeks into treatment, and periodically throughout the protocol. Dosing decisions are made based on whether the number lands, not based on how someone feels in the first few weeks. This is why provider oversight is not optional with either of these peptides. The monitoring protocol is what separates a safe, effective outcome from an unnecessary risk. So which one is actually better for fat loss? Here is the direct answer. If fat loss is your goal and visceral fat is the dominant pattern, the firm midsection, the metabolic marker, the abdominal accumulation that hasn't responded to conventional approaches, Tesamorelin is the more powerful and more clinically supported choice. The human trial data is there. The specificity of visceral fat is there. For that specific target, it outperforms Sermorelin. If fat loss is one part of a broader goal, you want better recovery, better sleep, better cognitive function, improved body composition over time, long-term anti-aging support, and visceral fat is not your dominant concern, Sermorelin is the more appropriate and suitable tool. It covers more ground systemically and has a longer clinical track record as a broad optimization peptide. The two questions that guides the decision in our clinic are simple. First, is visceral fat the primary target, or is it about overall optimization? And second, what does the full metabolic picture looks like? Labs, symptoms, history, and what does that tells us about which system most needs support? And the two questions almost always point clearly in one direction, and that direction is the one worth following. Not the one that sounds most impressive, not the one getting the most buzz online, but the one that matches your actual biology. If you've been sitting with this decision, Sermorelin or Tesamorelin, or whether either one is even right for you, here is what I want you to take away. The decision is worth getting right from the beginning. Starting the wrong peptide for your specific situation doesn't just waste money, it wastes months and leaves you more skeptical about something that could genuinely have worked if it has been matched to your actual biology. In my clinic, we don't make peptide recommendation based on what's popular or what someone read online. We look at numbers, your fasting glucose, your metabolic marker, your symptom profile, your history, and we match the tool to what your body actually needs. That conversation takes 30 minutes and it changes the entire trajectory of your results. If you want that conversation, and if you are local here to Texas, the link to book the consultation is in the description below. Come in with your question, come in with your labs if you have them. We'll tell you honestly what we think and why. Share this video if it helped you clarify the difference, because I promise most people on the peptide right now made this choice based on incomplete information, based on influencer information. And if you want more content like this, subscribe. We cover peptides, GLP-1s, hormone optimization, and metabolic health every week. All evidence-based, no hype. I'll see you in the next one.